Hi, my dear friends. How are you guys?
Hey, friend. We're good.
Hi, how are you?
Great, I'm fine as well. Before anything else, I want to apologize because I'm having a little trip here, so you guys may listen to some friends and family in the back sound of this place where I am. So sorry, guys. But I did not want us to lose this amazing study, so here we are. We have loads of interesting things to talk about today. This chapter is very beautiful, very emotional, brings this huge evangelical perspective. We have very interesting things to talk about today. Before we start, Norah will bring us some prayer as always, and then we're gonna go to our book without any further ado. Okay.
Let us close our eyes. Dear Mother, Father God, thank you for this evening as we are gathering here tonight in solidarity, in light, in peace, and love. Before anything, we just ask that we send blue light, pink light, white lights, golden lights, purple lights to our planet as we are just needing so much healing, protection, and love, especially to our brothers and sisters being affected, but also to every part of this world. And that tonight's study can hold a special place for all of us to keep learning and to keep raising that vibration on this planet. Let us say the Hail Mary prayer. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed in this fruit is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now and at the hour of our death. And with this, Mother Mary, we ask that with your beautiful embrace in your mantle, that you keep us very, very loved. And we send you special roses in gratitude for everything. With that, we ask permission to begin this study, and so be it.
So beautiful. Thank you so much. Um, so let's go to our book. We are in chapter two, which is called Tears and Torture. We're still reading this chapter, this amazing chapter. It is in the first part of the book. We're watching Jaziel, Abigail, and their father in a prison, waiting for their future decision. We also have seen Jaziel saying that if it comes to it, he would take the blame for his father's actions. So that's where we are. Here we see Abigail reflecting about her brother and how his life had been divided. And it's very pretty because it's nice for us to think what Jaziel was at that point while he was not a Christian, but already a Christian at heart. She said, between work, that he was always divided between work and obedience to his father, and between the study of the law and the sweet companion of his childhood. And the book brings us the fact that Jaziel and Abigail were two similar souls. And this will be very important in a couple of future chapters. Jaziel starts meditating on the possibility of him dying, and he wants his sisters to promise him that she would strictly follow their mother's advice to live a life without blemish in this world. And he asks her if she remembered their mother's last remarks on her deathbed, which were the book brings us. And you, my children, are to love God above everything with all your heart and with all your mind. Jaziel got very emotional and changing the conversation course, he said that she needed to rest. He added that she wouldn't worry and she shouldn't worry, for their destiny would always belong to God. It's very pretty. When his sister was lying down and trying to sleep, Jaziel finally started to think about the uncertain future that was awaiting them. Of course, he was human. He was preoccupied, though he was always trying to be strong for them. And looking at those bright stars, he cried. He started to cry. A nice thing to notice here is that Jason started to question their difficulty situation. As we've seen, he was very strong and he was always trusting God above everything. But he started to think, how could his honest family be in that situation? And then he remembered one by one, the book tells us that he remembered one by one all the teachings of the sacred writings. And this is very important for us to be sure that he was a young man who knew the law. Because when in the future, this will be very important. He also remembered his mother, thinking that she would know how to comfort them if she was there. As we've seen, their mother had already passed away. Um, he remembered that when he was a little boy, during all his little troubles, his mother taught him that in everything God was good and merciful, that in illness he was correcting the body, and in the distress of the soul, he lightened the heart. And he also remembered that she had always incited him to courage and joy, enabling him to feel that a person convinced of the divine Father is strong and happy in the world. Feeling more uplifted in his faith, Jazel recovered his courage, and after a long time of reflection, he settled down on the cold tiles to rest as best as he could in the still of the night. This is very nice. So the day broke, full of dire anticipation. That's what the book exactly tells us. Within a few minutes, they were received in the room reserved for common criminals. The quaestor Licinius looked at Jochebed and and told him, Jochebed, those who profane the laws of the empire are to be punished by death, but I shall try to be magnanimous in consideration of your old age. The pastor added, since you have nothing of your own to pay for the damage, you shall receive the punishment you deserve by being whipped so that you will never again raise your ravenous claws against Roman interests. Shukadab tried to beg for pity, but when he said that, he was replied with the order of receiving 20 lashes. When the punishment was about to begin, Jason said that he was the one who had actually committed the crime. So, as we've seen him um, reflecting on doing this, he actually did. But that confession did not work. They were both punished. So Jason was also led to the torture pole in front of his anguished father. His father tried to tell that it was not true, but that did not work as well. Um, while they were being punished, something terrible happened. A soldier arrived with information that one of Licinia's servants had died because of the fire injuries. The quaestor got really, really furious and said, these damned Jews will pay very dearly for this affront. And then he changed the sentence about Jaziel. He said that he should be whipped 20 more times and then taken to prison where he would live to be a slave on the galleys. As for Jochebed, he ordered his soldier to strike his hands and feet so that Jochebed would never be able to walk or practice evil ever again. So it was very, very cruel. Um, Something happened that was not supposed to happen. As the lashes went on, at one certain stroke, the soldier lost his aim, and the sharp end of the bronze whip cut deep into the throat of the poor Jochebed. His words when he was dying were, my children, my dear children. When Jazel saw that his father was about to die, he said, Abigail, father is dying. Have courage. Trust. I cannot follow you in prayer, but pray for us all, the prayer of the afflicted. And then Daniel will bring this part of the story for us, this sad part.
Thank you, João. So at this moment, Abigail, although she was crying, uh, deeply sad, watching that terrible scene, all turning, that turning of the events, she prayed, and not only prayed, she prayed singing. And as she sung the prayer of the afflicted, the book points out that she prayed fearlessly. And we have actually to point that out because she was a guilt among um, very violent and polytheists and full of authority Romans. And the Romans were people that enjoyed these slaughters at the Circus Maximus. So this is the uh, let's say the ambience she was in, that she had to pray to God and uh, give her testimony of trust, and that she relied in God after all these events and being judged as guilt. And interesting part, she she sung it so beautifully and with so much sweetness that all the Romans around were moved. Their heart, hard, now that's tricky to pronounce. Hard hearts were softened by her sweetness, by her cries, by her cry, and even the quaestor Licinius was moved by her singing, by the prayer, and he felt compassion just for her, and he didn't like that. Okay, being moved, being soft-hearted, did not please him, and he ordered to a guard to escort her out of the premises. And this guard, Justinius, took her out, opened the gate, and as she looked at the street full of people passing by, she understood uh, the situation she was in. Her dad was dead, her brother was enslaved without hope of freedom, and she too soon and suddenly was for her was on her own for the first time ever, and she had to pull it off. She had to survive. She remembered a friend of the family, Sostenia, and went straight to her house. Sostenia embraced her, calmed her, trying to calm her, and Abigail's reminding, just like her dad, Shohedeb, had a terrible idea to go back to Licinius and ask for a chance to recompose her life just like it was. Sostenia, but uh, differently from her dad, she had a friend to say, hey, that's not a good idea. Let's move on with your life as it is now, because that's not going to work. So she remembered, Sostenia dissuaded this idea of Abigail, and remembered another friend, Zechariah, that was traveling from Achaia to Cenchreae. Well, Cenchreae was 82 miles from Achaia. That's, that was a long trip. And Corinth, where Abigail and Sosthenia was around 8 miles away from Cenchreae. So, in order to meet Zechariah, she had to walk. There was no other option, and she had to do it right away. She had to uh, go straight to Zechariah and flee from Corinth to escape Licinius' uh, let's say, violence. He was always thirsty for blood and to get richer. So she went, and the sun was burning, very hot day, and she finally found Zachariah and his wife Ruth. But at that moment, all her sweetness and all her liveliness were all worn out, and that shocked Zachariah and Ruth, and they immediately embraced her, took care of her, and she was so weak that was that she was in fear that she could not explain enough, and she spit it out in one breath. She said all she briefed all the situations she has been through, the death of Jochebed and the enslavement of Giesel, and she fell sick, very deeply sick. But she was now with a new family. She was being taken care of, and she became as a daughter to Ruth and Zechariah, and because they had just lost their son exactly to the Roman Empire. Now I pass the word to Norah. Thank you.
Wow, guys, just so emotional. Just one thing after the other. But I think chapter three, it kind of it picks up a little bit from that. And I'm gonna use my notes because you guys know I can like, yeah, I can talk. Okay, so I'm gonna begin with the summary as always, and then we can go back and even we can even go back to the other stuff to break things down. So then after all that happens, the emotional scenes of Jokadep dying with those harsh blows, Jessel taken into slavery, right, badly injured, and Abigail just escaping in despair. Chapter 3, entitled In Jerusalem, just kind of focuses, at least in the beginning, on Jessel. And so it begins by saying, Giselle was was thinking about his dad, reminiscing about the good times with mom, and of course wondering where's Abigail. And he's like, as soon as I'm free, I'm gonna go and find her. And in this state, right, for 30 days, he was in these deplorable conditions. I feel like both physically, mentally, emotionally, right? And it's the book describes that his wounds were tough. So it's like the wounds healed and then they got scarred. Okay. And then finally they took him to the galley. And because now they were going to sell to areas like Cephalonia, Nicopolis, I don't know how to say the pronunciation, the ports of Cyprus and along Palestine's coast. Um, so it was interesting and beautiful and strong to see that during this time, Giselle, even though he's a slave and he's by himself, he worked diligently. I mean, he worked hard and with the oars, unloading stuff, helping with people in and out with the passengers under Lysippus. In one of these trips, they pick up this young Roman politician, Sergius Paulus, and Paulus thought he was going to be on his way to this other city, but it turns out that at that time they were going through some difficulties. They had a plague, and he got it, and it was fever with like ulcers on their skin, and he was very very sick. So Sergius asked for a slave. Can somebody please, somebody trustworthy, dependable, take care of me? So immediately, of course, they thought of Giselle because he was such a good man, right? And just so immediately went and he took all the measures that he could, but with the key love and kindness to help Sergius come back um, to health. And Sergius does, but because this is a contagious disease, unfortunately, Giselle also gets that, right? So the captain was like, well, this is just a slave. Let's throw him out, let the fish deal with him. It's much safer than, throwing him back into the boat or into the population, mess up all the other slaves, right? And of course, Sergius was like, no way, absolutely not. Sergius was so impressed with Giselle's kindness that he was like, no way. Instead of throwing him out, we're going to set him free. And the captain was like, there's no way. But then Sergius was like, well, I know Licinius. And I think as soon as he says that, the captain was like, all right, you do what you got to do. You figure it out. So Sergius goes and talks to Giselle, who was already, as the book described, he was very sick. He already had that fever. But even like that, Giselle was very humble, and he was like, no, I'm your servant, and etc. And Sergius was like, I'm so grateful that as soon as we get to Joppa, I think that's, yeah, Joppa. As soon as we get to Joppa, we will set you free with the conditions that you won't tell anyone. This is a secret. And that's where we end up. So it's a lot of stuff that happened. And there's so many lessons to learn. I think if we go back to the very first part, was when it describes him like Emmanuel describes him, that his rosy colored cheeks, his joy, his facial expressions was very somber, very sad. He had some wrinkles for his age. Like, it was a very hard thing for him. But his eyes had the same sweet serenity, the result of his inner trust in God, right? As they say, the eyes of the windows to the soul, right? We connect to that. Um, and it says here that he kept remembering Proverbs to stay calm. And there's these two beautiful verses of the Bible in Proverbs. And Proverbs was written by Solomon, the son of David. The first one is Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 and 6. It says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him or her, right? And he or she will make your paths straight, right? So that's beautiful. Proverbs 12, chapter 12, verse 25 says, an anxious heart weighs a man down, but a kind word cheers him up. So we can imagine Giselle constantly saying this to himself, and that's how it was showing in his eyes, right? So even us too, as we have difficulties, sometimes it may show, but if it's all in our eyes, because it's that trust in God. The second thing that was mentioned here was that he was, the way he felt heavy, right? He was an orphan of father and mother, captive of cruel tortures, and he would have to learn how to hold on to the treasure of hope. So this could be literal, right? When somebody is an orphan, like, that's very difficult and kind of have to find adopted family. But it could also symbolize, for instance, emotionally orphaned individuals. It could even be like we feel orphaned of our dreams, like things they collapse before us, or we never had that support. And what is Emmanuel reminding us? Keep that treasure and hold on to that hope that, things are going to be okay. Because then he continues that even though he was feeling that way, he says here, kiss of freedom. And so when we are in this state, right, whether it be literally or metaphorically speaking, right, where we feel like we're so alone, do we want to dwell there, or do we want to have this attitude of just, I'm gonna step out of this, right? Because Giselle was still, he saw himself and kiss that freedom. And there's a lot of studies too how we have to keep tell it inside our heads, right? Like that we manifested. And so he has that mentality. He's manifesting all of this, and that's teaching us so much. So can we have that vision like Giselle? That was beautiful. The next thing that we can learn from this all these scenes is his conduct. So even though it says here that Lysippus was so surprised, because even though Giselle was a slave, he wasn't like a criminal, and he was used to being around people like that. So what does that show? Is that our essence, it's us, no matter in what conditions where we're at, our true essence is going to come out, right? And we're human, and that's okay, because there were parts here where I think we could see Giselle questioning and everything, but not only in his eyes but in his actions, they come out. I was remembering a Chico story. Can I say a Chico story? Yes. And Jean's gonna help me. Let me see if I know. This is the one where he was in an airplane and there was like turbulence, and then he's holding on, thinking, I saw this in the movie. Oh my God, I'm going to die. Right there's Chico holding on to the chair, and then Emmanuel appears to him and says, hey, what's going on? You drunk? Yes or no? Correct me.
Oh, this is totally fine. You were telling the story exactly how it
Correct?
happened.
Yes,
Yes,
thank you.
yes, he was. Chico got quite afraid, and he started. He, as everyone else, he started to scream. He was a human being, as we are, and he got afraid, really afraid, and he started to scream. And then Emmanuel appeared to him and said, "Shut up! Don't do that. Show your faith to others.
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah,
do that."
Die politely.
Yes, die politely, exactly.
there you go. And so it's that reminded me of that, because I'm sure that the book says it to us nicely, but Giselle was a human, and he went through that process, but his morals was there. And I feel like that scene of Chico reminded me so much, right, for a visual. The next thing, and please guys, please feel free to stop when you want to, is the work. It says here that he was telling all work is God's work, right? With labor, with a clear conscience, we are servants of the Creator, and we help him in his work. So he saw his place in this dynamic. He didn't see himself in any other thing. And you know I think that it's for us to humble ourselves as well, because if we were in that position, how would we feel, right? Like I was like, wow, this is something else, because morally speaking, spiritually speaking, Giselle he's evolved, right? And yet he finds himself in this very difficult situation, and he's still saying, God's work, which I think is a lot like Chico. Chico was very enlightened, and he was around all of us. And yet, right, he was very humble. He was like a servant. So I don't know if you guys want to say something. Please feel free. um all right, then let us continue. The next thing um that we learn, and I feel like right after that it says Giselle had a conciliatory formula for bringing harmony to the more excitable minds. So the question is, are we being energy givers like Giselle, or are we being what we call here the energy vampires? Because it seems like in all of this state where he's at, his attitude, he's giving away this energy, which is interesting because here he is a servant, right? And the people in the leadership position are even feeding off of this energy, right? And so it's important for us, where am I at? Can we be like Giselle? The next thing that we can learn from here is let me see, devoted to the sick. It's that devotion that Giselle had towards Sergius, right? He was so devoted to him. So I would say we can always take it literal if we are in a place to take care of someone who is sick, that we have it. But what if we were to kind of think about this in an analogy? What if this Sergio being and that illness that he has, what if it represents something else that's not well in our lives, right? It could even be an illness, it could be something we have to work on, it could be a circumstance. Could we love it and take care of it and appreciate it until it heals like Giselle did, right? Like, think about it. What if it's something within ourselves that we need to heal? Can we talk to ourselves with that love and that dedication? Because once we're able to do that with ourselves, then we can start to truly emanate that towards others. And I think that it was interesting how Emmanuel in that scene, there was like no interruptions, like nobody came in. It was almost like these two men face to face in different conditions, like these mirror images. And Giselle had to really he really came close contact with something that I felt made him grow and that we ourselves can learn. I thought that was very, very, very powerful. I'm almost done. um it says here unexcelled kindness. Having that kindness is beyond, like, I don't even think we can, this is speaking to the choirs we say here, because we know as spiritists we're always talking about kindness, but we need to do it. It's easier said than done sometimes, right? But we have an example there. And then let me see what do I want. Okay, so it says here on my notes, then it won't be difficult to start your life. Okay, so I'm finishing up. So imagine in this story, we learn gratitude, love. What goes around kind of comes around, because that's what ends up happening. Giselle ends up getting free. Those are my notes are really messy. Giselle gets free without even like asking for it. Actually, he was very quiet in the process. He was kind. He was there in the healing process and completed till the end. He never disrespected. He didn't curse. He didn't stop working. He wasn't self entitled. He didn't even refuse to take care of him, knowing that he too could get sick. Instead, he constantly showed love, kindness, hard work, hope, and optimism. He gave us a lot of healing tips, like very organic, the way he spoke, right? And I know that's very important for healing. That's not just the medicine, but the other care and the love. He was full of faith, gratitude. He had like a huge vision, just like the sea, really, really vast. But something that was interesting was that they had that plague, like us that are just, I have no idea where we're at in the pandemic, but it's been a stages, and it's interesting to see that here too. Just like we're learning that this brought a lot of awareness, and people started to generally care for one another. Or this too happened here. Sergius was actually very grateful, and that changed him. That illness changed him, and he passed on that kindness. I think that that's what happened. So we're going to end with the Corinthians. First Corinthians chapter 4, verses 1 through 2. And the title here in my Bible said Apostles of Christ. So it says here, so then men ought to regard us as servants of Christ and as those entrusted with the secret things of God. Now it is required that these who have been given a trust must prove faithful. And I think that was just so, a servant of God, an apostle of Christ. He was given a lot of trust, and he was working all of that faithfully. Question is, can we be like Giselle? Ooh, that's tough. Yeah.
That's quite a tough question. Bro, do you want to say something before I have a couple of considerations? Can I go on, or do you want to say something?
Oh, something that made me wonder was the sweetness of Abigail that granted her freedom, that touched their hearts, even Licinius's heart. So, uh, what is this power? And I wonder about. Well, she was not only sweet, beautiful, delicate. She was always believing in God and spreading somehow the message of the not the power, but the love of God. And this part, as the last sentence of the prayer she sings, it says that God is the doorway which will never close. This is the reason that their faith is unshakable, is so strong, because they believe in God, they believe in love of God, not the power to change or to punish. They believe they feel loved uh, in a way so superior to all mankind, and people feel that all amount of love exuding out of her. And that remind me of the parable of the sower. The question is, the sower, he doesn't still stood still waiting for the seed to sprout. He keeps walking, and God will take care of the seed to sprout in the right way, in the right day. Uh, so she does. Uh, Abigail and Giselle, they do what they have to do in with all the strength of their belief, and they move on. That's how they live, and this is so strong that touch people's hearts, even the most brutal ones. And that's how I got it. That's how I could understand it.
That's very nice. Since we are reading as well Andre Luis books, it's really interesting thinking about the amount of magnetism that her, Abigail, was spreading around her. This powerful magnetism, all about love, as you said. And it's very interesting because she literally dominated them. They could not face her, and that is about magnetism as well. This is very powerful fluids going everywhere and changing the course of history. That's very nice. Although this was not what she was talking about, that she was just expressing herself in this beautiful truthful way. Another thing that really caught my attention here is Jaisal helping the soldiers. This always trying to cooperate movement that he was every time I'm thinking about. It's interesting because when we see his actions, we every time we feel and we are looking at a Christian, and this is very important because cooperation and trying to be useful, it is those are Christian principles, and he is always in this place. Another thing, at Norah asked, can we have that vision like Jaisal? um, and I think that having that vision is admitting that spirituality is the paradigm. And when we put spirituality and think every minute, every second of our lives that we are spirits and that this life will go on after that, everything changes. And when Nora brings us this perspective, his vision, I do think it's about having spirituality as a paradigm in our lives, because that changes every single thing. They were very they were believers in God, in the after death, in the love of God. They were believers in this. We do see, because we see that every time that something bad happens, he is trying Jason is trying to see the other side, and always searching, seeking that hope, that good part of the thing, that good part of the problem, that solution, that supposed solution that the problem will bring, and everything will be fine at some point. um Another thing, the work, this amount of work, he was always working. And as Nora brought us, the need that he felt like he should be working. Another very, very clear perspective that he was a Christian, always trying to work. Because as Emmanuel brought us in Thought in Life, that amazing book, love is above all serving others. So when you love and when you want to learn how to love, you will seek this amount of service to help others. This is beautiful and a very strong expression of love. Um, and a really interesting thing that we saw in this chapter is that even Jaziel, he doubted a couple of times. He was, as we saw in my part, questioning why his family, his honest father, his pure sister, why were they going through all those difficult things and this difficult time, this hard time, all those cruel actions from those soldiers and the questor. And it is interesting that we see here that even those high spirits, they feel the weight of matter, because being incarnated in this planet, that's what it is about. When we're here, and Nora brought Chico's example in the airplane, that's what it is about. This planet is not easy at all. It is tough. It is hard being here. Even when you are a a very elevated spirit. So the weight of matter is something that we're gonna have to deal with. And when we see other unpsychographed books, and we hear and we read and we have another examples like Saint Francis of Assisi, and as we are talking lately about Mother Mary example, we see that they have to face loads of things to come down here in this not that welcoming planet to help us. This is not an easy place to be, and materialism is still the paradigm as we're seeing this sad latest events. It's all about materialism that is always reflecting pride, selfishness. So this is still the paradigm, as we are progressing, spirituality will become the absolute north in all our actions. Do you guys want to say something else?
I could say something on the part with Abigail. You know how the other family takes her in. I always love those parts, that adopted family, because it, like you said, materialism is does not just physical things, but even thoughts that hold us like that. And we're called to just, we are a universal family. And I thought, wow, for being at that time, um, their culture and stuff like that, that they were open to receiving Abigail. And I thought, well, that's a great example. Can we be like that as well? Open to everyone, accept everyone, embrace everyone, take those different roles. I thought that was beautiful.
It wasn't getting to open my mic, but yes, this is very pretty, and we are seeing that law of attraction here. She was this loving person, and she will end up in this loving family, this loving new parents, this new loving mother, this new loving father. This is very, very interesting. And as the book goes on, we're gonna see that this family will treat her truly, truly like a daughter. Their relationship, it's gonna be very, very beautiful.
No spoilers, João. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. That's good.
No, I'm always forgetting that I can't
Yes, you can. It's a joke.
bring I can bring especially those biggest spoilers that would change everything, and that I do
We
have them
figured.
on my hands.
We figured. But you know what? Just thinking about that. Even if you lose an actual family member, right? She could have stayed stuck. I don't have a mom. I don't have a dad. She was open to it, and so were those parents too. You know, they lost a son, and it must have hurt. It hurts when you lose someone, and yet we can heal, right? We can heal by loving others and embracing them. So that's I don't know what you anything.
Yes, totally. I so sorry, bro. You can go on.
Oh no, thank you. I believe I said it all.
I
Thank you
thought
so
you
much for.
I thought you said something. So sorry.
Oh no, no, I was just thinking along with you guys.
I do think that they're healing each other with this amount of love that we're seeing in these chapters. Um, and as you brought again, Abigail was alone, very alone. She had nothing. She didn't have a place to live. She didn't have her beloved brother or her beloved father, but she was still trusting God. And this is what we're talking about here, having this north in life that they actually did. Although they we're not Christians when it comes to accepting and knowing the Christ. They had all those principles in their hearts, and this is beautiful. And seeing those actions, seeing people acting like that, it's very, very. It really inspire us to try to look to life with this north as well, having spirituality as a paradigm because. We are always having conversations about that, and lately a friend of mine he brought all those laws that we learn in spiritism on or other religions, and he questioned if we believe them like we believe in the gravity law. Like, I'm not gonna let my cell phone fall because I do believe that if we did believe on those amazing principles that Christ brought us when it comes to them. They were talking about the Old Testament, but although beautiful principles, if we did believe, our life would be different and we would not be afraid. And as we've said here before, the Old Testament is full of this beautiful phrase: don't be afraid, trust God, because this life will not end when you when you die. And believing this changes every single thing. And again, I think today is a very important day for us to bring this amount of hope when we think about those principles, because our world, um, it's even hard to say what is going on here
It is
on this
tough.
planet. Yeah, it's
It,
quite tough.
it's
We're
tough.
seeing materialism, what as we've said, reflected as pride and selfishness taking place everywhere. Nobody wants to talk, and it feels like people do believe that everything ends up here in materialism, in this amount of matter. It's sad. And so seeing those amazing Christians, those amazing examples, it
Mm.
really brings us some strength. Do you
Yeah,
guys want to say
sure.
something before we?
I can say something regarding the current times and just thinking about their mindset. And I know we've studied also Andre Luis. So even though they don't say it, we're kind of analyzing it, thanking God and the spirits for having more literature to compare it to. But in all the series, Andre Luis is constantly reminding us that the mental vibration, those thoughts, self-check those thoughts. What are your thoughts? And you know, even though, like you said, João and Daniel, with both Abigail going through a hard time, probably having those moments, but they like self-check. They came back. Giselle too, even though he went, but he comes back, and that mental field around him even calls good spirits. Because I was thinking, even Abigail getting sent, like she was free, like that was already, like you said, that magnetism, that good energy, because her thoughts were always in that state. So it's a lot easier for the spirits to come and kind of, hey, to that soldier, I can't remember his name, I'm sorry, like, you can go, right? I mean, that's a powerful indicator of us. And how many times too in our lives we think, oh my gosh, I'm stuck. And even right now too, with so much happening, we feel like we've hit a wall, we've hit a corner. And we keep those thoughts, raising them, just listening to a song, because that's what she did. She sang, reading something positive. What if we have that moment where the spirits come and then just takes one door, it's open, and that's it, and you just go like Abigail and Giselle. And I think the times today are harder, just like their times, but if we just keep those thoughts, and it is not easy, honestly. I, like you, John, I feel like I'm here at home, like, oh my gosh, what's happening? Like, when people do not want to talk about it like this way, if we commit to this conversation about the stuff going the other way, like a little bit more towards the negative, the pessimism, the World War III, and nothing's going to work out, we tend to gain a lot of people. But if we sit down and talk about, okay, let's talk about the productive thoughts, it's a lot harder to find people in that, right? Myself included. I'm the first one there, but tonight I am personally am being reminded, just keep those thoughts going. It is very hard. Just try, even if it's a song. It doesn't have, even if it's a song on your own. And there are so many beautiful, beautiful songs. Like John Lennon's song, Imagine. Yesterday I sang that one. And after singing that song, I just sat here like, wow, imagine that. It is possible. It is possible. These are the opportunities that we have. So yeah, we're just, it's all up here. We're learning a lot. I don't know if
Yes, yes.
yeah,
I do think that we should recall those lyrics. Imagine there's no countries. Yeah,
yeah,
we are exactly needing that type of lyric. And as you brought, um, we can collaborate with our vibrations. It is not easy to think positive, and we are not trying to call people to this talks as we have talked about here in Brazil, this toxic positivity. That's not about that,
no, no,
but it's really about some scientific thing, vibrational, um, our mental attitude. This really helps. Although we think it doesn't, it does. And while we are here, like in Brazil or there in the United States of America, thinking positive and trying to keep a more well-balanced place for even for the spirits, for so they can collaborate more and they can approach us more, they can connect with us, they can inspire us more, because we're gonna try to keep the vibration more equal. And this really helps, because if we think like the whole planet will fear, this is not good. And we that are in this more comfortable place, we can help them be more comfortable when it comes to our mental attitude. And this really helps. Praying a lot, singing songs, trying to have this high spirituality in this time, it really helps. And we're seeing this amazing book, those amazing characters trying to keep a high spirituality, although and we've seen with them, it is hard to keep thinking about good things, about a good future. And we like, when we think that we're at home and there are bombs falling everywhere and we're hearing that, of course it is easy. It isn't easy, but for us that we're here in this more comfortable place, it is actually easier. So we need to try to help the way we can. And as Chico always told us, those prayers, they really reach heaven. He asked Emmanuel what they were, and they were reaching, they were helping. So we need to try to love those that are there, try to do our part, even though we are far apart, and pray and hope that better days will come. That's
yeah.
all we can ask for. Yes,
Because even in, was it No Solar, when the World War
yes,
was going, they saw these lights coming out from a church in the middle of all that.
yes, that's so
Oh,
pretty.
it's so beautiful.
Yes,
Now we also talked about that blue light. Remember,
yes,
in this past book, there was a
yes.
prayer, and there's always this blue light. So it's tough, but if we just try it and we trust it, just like Corinthians says, right? We're being entrusted with, when you're entrusted, when you're given trust, you're going to have to work that trust out, right? And so right now as Christians, we are being called, we're being asked to use that faith in different ways, of course.
Yes, this is
Yeah.
very pretty. Oh, so sorry, bro. Can
Oh, sorry, I didn't ask. Um, I started to think so much about something. Living as we believe. Um, I lost my dad um, past year, so it was something that troubled me since I knew this doctrine. Since I started studying Spiritism, I was wondering, and what if a day that my beliefs will be tested? And I started to build a mindset for that. And this mindset is important for everything. And I dealt so, I think so well with that. Uh, English don't have saudade in Portuguese is when you miss somebody. That is a feeling. So when I miss every time I miss my dad, I cry, but I cry remembering the his companion, his advice, and my wife. She's always like untrustful. She's, oh, are you dealing really that well? You lost your dad was a great guy. Are you dealing? Are you like? Are you trying to hide something? Some bad feeling? Some depression maybe? She, always trying to find something out. But yes, I surprisingly taking it so well, and I fully understand how we are immortals, how we are spirits. It's so simple, so forthright, and uh, really helps to have a mindset to be ready for what's coming. If you not just believe, you have to think about and try to like feel that before it actually happens. So I like to point out is the mindset so important.
Yes, super. And this that you brought, that we need to try to build this before it happens. This is really, really a lesson. This is really, really important because
Beautiful
we can
blessing.
take, yes, we can take meditation as an example. We need to find a way to meditate and to learn how to meditate before we are in this crisis moment, because when we're there, it's impossible to focus. It is impossible to meditate. So we have to have that tools before, in this previous time. And another thing that you said that is very interesting, our time is getting to the end here, but I'm going to say this. You said that Anna was always asking you if you were hiding something, and how you actually were. This is very beautiful. And we've seen in the book, Jaisal, and at one part, he was trying to be very strong, but at some point, he was looking to the stars. He was feeling very, very preoccupied about tomorrow. And then he couldn't care anymore if Abigail was watching him crying or not. He actually felt comfortable to leave her there, lied, seeing him crying, and maybe they could share that feeling, and it would be easier to have somebody to carry that amount of preoccupation with. This is having somebody to with whom we can count on. It's very, very important. It does change every single thing. We have reached our time here, so I want to ask you guys if you want to say something before we finish.
I just want to say thank you. And Daniel, that word saudade, there is no English translation. It's true to Portuguese.
Yes, I
Thank you.
forgot that there's
The-
no translation for this word. There's no translation. Bro, do you want to say something more?
Oh, thank you guys. Thank you all. Good night, and may we have better days ahead.
Thank
Beautiful.
you, my dear friends, so much. I'm very grateful to God for having you both here studying with me. Everybody that was here with us, that will watch this study later at one of the channels, Kardec Radio's Instagram page, or Kardec Radio's um, Facebook page or YouTube channel. Thank you so much. We're very happy for
Guys.
this this opportunity of learning all those teachings. Thank you so much. Although again, the study will be saved, so everybody can watch it later. Thank you so much. See you guys next week.
See you. Bye.
Bye
Bye,
bye.
guys.